Welcome to Intaglio CD-ROM Printmaking Part 1 or Scratch Art, depending on what you want to do. Let me just say, this process, Jay did not sit on my lap. He sat on his bird stand. Hey, buddy. Here's the supplies that you'll need. So you'll need a CD-ROM or old DVD or CD. Now, I'm using two just because I'm going to show you more stuff in this demo. Make sure that there are no smudges on it. You'll want 2 to 3 pieces of scrap paper and some scissors and a paintbrush, some paint that is washable such as tempera paint, or if you're doing scratch art, acrylic is fine. You'll also want a soft chalk pastel and pencils, a paper towel or something soft to wipe with, easy to remove tape, water, and gloves. You'll need a scratch tool. Anything that will scratch will work. My suggestion is to trace the CD-ROM so you can create a design. Make sure to also trace the holes. Now, you can skip this step, jump ahead to painting, and draw directly on the CD-ROM if you like. But there's a catch. This is a necessary step if you don't want your image to print in reverse. Grab another piece of scrap paper and place your CD-ROM or CD-ROMs on top. Now you're going to go take the paint and you're going to paint across it. If you're wanting to print, you will need to make sure that you're using tempera paint so you can wash it off. If you're wanting just to create scratch art to let the scratches be shiny with the main surface blocked out, then acrylic is fine. When you're painting, go back and lightly skim across the surface to eliminate all chunks. So no chunks. And you can go back and touch it up. So lightly skim. I would suggest go in one direction so that your paint lays flat. I'm going to go ahead and paint the second CD-ROM, and that way I have 2 to show for this demo. If you don't like how the paint turned out and you're using tempera paint, you can always wash it off and repaint. I'd also go around the little holes too, just to make sure that you know what you're scratching, and then wash off your brush. Go ahead and draw out your design. And for this demo, I'm just doodling, but you can write words. Remember, the image will print in reverse. So if that is something you don't want, then you will need to flip the image either by scanning or by tracing the image through a window. That works as well before transferring. This is no different than any other form of printmaking where the image prints in reverse. However, if you're doing scratch art, you don't need to worry about this. Now it's time to cut out our designs. So just cut around it. I don't even worry about cutting out the holes. There really is no need. So we're going to do this one first, and I'm going to rub the soft chalk pastel over the part that I'm going to place up against the CD-ROM. Now for this, because it's simple, I'm not really worried about it. I'm just going to go right over the top with my pencil, and this will transfer the soft pastel onto the CD. So check it out. Ta-da! This is a much more complicated design. So I'm going to take that soft pastel, rub it over the back, place it over my design, and make sure that I line up the hole. Now, the cheat that I have is to place it up against a light so you can see the holes. If you trace that hole, you can line it up. Then I'm going to take some tape. I'm using masking tape, but any removable tape is fine. And I'm going to tape my design down to the CD-ROM. Okay, it's time to transfer. So what you're going to need are your pencils. Now, mechanical pencil works for fine lines, and you can see it's transferring, but sometimes the lead breaks because you do have to press down relatively hard. Sometimes it's easier to use a colored pencil, or you can use a normal pencil as well. Either way, whichever one you work with, you're going to need to check to make sure it's transferring. And don't worry if it's not, you can always undo the tape and go back and add more soft pastel. And I'm just going to follow my lines. You can add more if you want to. At this point, anything you do will transfer on and you'll have more lines to follow as you scratch. It's time to undo the tape. Now, do not throw that design away. Keep it just in case. Look at that. So our design has been transferred, but it is with chalk pastel. So if you rub across it, it will remove it. This is good, but it can also be a challenge. Here's an idea that we use in my classes. If you want your design to be portable, I would tape it to a clipboard, or in this case, this is the back of a picture frame. That way you can take it with you. Or you can do what I'm doing right now, is I'm going to place tape curls in the back and just tape it to my desk. Tempera paint will wipe off. So look at this. See, if you like, you can put a piece of scrap paper underneath you as you work. I'm not using one right now, so you can see what I'm doing. It's time to put on our gloves and then grab your scratch tool. Anything scratchy will work. It has to be able to scratch through that paint and into the plastic. This is a little tougher than you probably expect. If you want to see if it's working, take your finger and wipe away that chalk pastel. You'll be able to see the shiny. You may have to go back over your lines a couple times or do a back and forth scratching motion to make sure that it scratches. I usually alternate scratching versus wiping away. And right now you can see it's working. You can also see where my glove has taken off some of the paint, which is no big deal. It's not scratching the plastic, it's just removing the paint. Get all those lines transferred. You know, the ones that you scratched in. Let's go ahead and transfer your lines, and that way you have your design in there, just in case it gets wiped away. But here's where the magic starts to happen. You can use that paper towel or old t-shirt to go ahead and wipe off all the chalk pastel. Check it out. You now have a shiny design. Just a reminder, as we start adding details, that with scratch art it may be shiny, but for printmaking it will be darker. The more details you add, the darker your design will be. So think pen and ink techniques as you work, such as cross-hatching. The wider apart the lines are, the more open and light your design will be if you're doing printmaking. All right, for scratch art, it'll appear darker. You can also do scumbling, which is one of my favorites. It's just scribbling, and I'm alternating these. I'm doing lots of scumbling, and now I'm going to do more open. So lots of scumbling, less scumbling, and you can scratch an area completely away if you want to. One trick I use if you want to scratch away a large area or you want to have like a haze around the outside edges is to use sandpaper. What I'm using right now is 150 grit, but any grit works, and I'm rotating the disc as I go and just scratching. When you go to print, you'll be able to see the direction you scratched. So scratch with intent. Keep on adding detail before removing the paint. So I'm still using pen and ink techniques and I'm adding more detail. You can stop whenever you want to, but it's easier to see while the paint remains on. Add as many details as you want. This is the time to do it. And don't forget about the little area around the very middle of the disc. And it looks like we're ready. So check it one last time and then let's go wash it off. I'm keeping my gloves on while I do this just because I don't want my hands to turn color. So you can also use a paintbrush. The paintbrush works really good to help get it out all the cracks. If it doesn't get removed from all the cracks, it's not the end of the world. There may be some paint that sneaks under the edge of in between the cover and the design, if that makes sense. But make sure to remove the tape and then keep on washing it off until you're happy with it and you can dry it off and reveal your design. Behind the scenes, I went ahead and scratched this one as well. You can see the design is backwards. This one is my favorite though, and he is beautiful as is. If you are into shiny scratch art, you are done. However, if you are wanting to print, we will need to do a test print to make sure that the depth of the scratches is deep enough so your design prints. Join me for part 2 where we do a test print and then our final print. I'm excited. I see you. I see you. You like to eat when I start to do a voiceover, don't you? Yeah, you do, you little stinker.